The phone vibrated against my desk, its screen lighting up with a message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. These days, spam texts were as common as morning traffic. But something made me reach for it. Maybe it was intuition, or maybe just the universe's cruel sense of timing. You deserve to know the truth. Below the message was a photo that turned my world inside out. My husband Mark, pressed against a wall, his hands tangled in some woman's hair as they kissed. The timestamp showed yesterday, 2:47 p.m., right when he'd told me he was stuck in meetings all afternoon. I'm Alexa, and until 30 seconds ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Executive position at 32, married to my college sweetheart, and 5 months pregnant with our first child. Funny how a single image can shatter years of certainty. My hand instinctively went to my swollen belly as bile rose in my throat. The baby kicked, as if sensing my distress. I zoomed in on the photo, studying every pixel, desperately hoping to find some proof it was doctored. But I recognized the tie he wore, the one I'd given him for his birthday last month. The woman's face was partially hidden, but I caught a glimpse of youth in her features that made my stomach clench. "Everything okay, Alexa?" My assistant Sarah poked her head in, probably noticing my sudden stillness. "You look pale." "Fine," I managed, though my voice sounded strange even to my own ears. "Just need some water." After she left, I stared at my reflection in the darkened computer screen. Same face, same person, but something fundamental had shifted. The woman looking back at me wasn't just hurt, she was furious. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "There's more where this came from. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you want proof." I should have been crying. Isn't that what betrayed wives do? Instead, I felt ice crystallizing in my veins, my mind already calculating moves and counter-moves. The Thompson in me, Dad's strategic genius and Mom's steely determination, was taking over. Mark's contact photo flashed on my screen, his daily check-in call. I watched it ring, remembering how he'd kissed me goodbye this morning, how he'd rubbed my belly and promised to bring home dinner. I declined the call and opened my calendar. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I had a board meeting, one that Mark knew about. One more lie to add to his growing collection. "Meeting cancelled," I typed to my assistant. Something more important came up. The baby kicked again, harder this time. "Don't worry, little one," I thought. Mommy's about to teach someone a very important lesson about consequences. My mother's violin studio always smelled like Rossini and old wood. Today, those familiar scents couldn't calm the trembling in my hands as I showed her the photo. "That bastard," she whispered, her normally elegant composure cracking. She set her violin down with deliberate care, but I caught the slight tremor in her movement. "Does your father know?" "Not yet." I sank into the window seat where I used to practice as a child. "I'm meeting someone tomorrow who claims to have more evidence." Mom crossed the room, her silk scarf trailing behind her like a battle flag. "You need to tell Richard. You know how he feels about being blindsided, especially when it comes to family." She was right. Dad's philosophy had always been that family crises were like hostile takeovers. The sooner you know, the better you can control the narrative. Mark's been asking questions about Dad's company lately. Casual things about the new drug trials, market projections. The words felt bitter in my mouth. I thought he was just showing interest in the family business. Mom's face hardened. "That's not casual, Alexa, that's fishing." My phone buzzed. Mark again. Third missed call since this morning. The text that followed made my stomach turn. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." "He's with her right now," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "While I'm carrying his child, he's—" "Stop." Mom gripped my shoulders. "This isn't about him anymore. This is about protecting you, the baby, and everything your father has built." The intercom chimed. Dad's voice filled the studio. "Margaret, is Alexa with you? I need to see you both in my study." Mom and I exchanged glances. Dad's study meant serious business. We found him standing at his desk, tablet in hand, The screen showed a company-wide email from our biggest competitor announcing their newest board member, Robert Bennett, Mark's father. Care to explain why my son-in-law's father just joined Riverside Pharmaceuticals? Dad's voice was deadly quiet. The same company that's been trying to poach our research team. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo. His face went from confused to thunderous in seconds. That's not all, I said. The woman he's with, she's their new intern. Dad sat down heavily, the leather chair creaking under his weight. How long have you known? Since this morning. But Mark's been acting strange for weeks, asking questions about the trials, Dad finished, his expression darkening. They're using him to get to us, and he's either too stupid or too greedy to see it. The baby kicked hard enough to make me wince. Mom noticed and reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I didn't need comfort right now. I needed a plan. What are we going to do? Mom asked. Dad's smile was cold. We're going to show them exactly why you don't betray a Thompson. The private investigator's office smelled like stale coffee and secrets. James Chen slid a manila folder across his desk, his expression grim. You might want to sit down for this, Mrs. Bennett. Thompson, I corrected automatically. I never changed my name. A decision that had irritated Mark's traditional father. Now I understood why keeping my identity had been so important. Miss Thompson, then. Chen opened the folder. Your husband's been meeting Miss Parker 3 times a week at the Morton Hotel. But that's not the interesting part. He spread out surveillance photos. Mark and his young lover entering elevators, leaving restaurants, sharing intimate moments. Each image was like a knife, but I forced myself to look. Then I saw something that made my blood freeze. That briefcase. I pointed to a photo where Mark was handing Chloe a leather portfolio. That's where he keeps the prototype designs for Dad's new drug delivery system. Chen nodded. She takes it to Riverside Pharmaceuticals every Thursday afternoon, straight to Robert Bennett's office. My father-in-law, Mark's father, the man who'd hugged me at Sunday dinners while plotting to steal my family's research. There's more. Chen pulled out a transcript. Phone conversations between Miss Parker and various Riverside executives. She's not just an intern, she's their corporate spy. And your husband, he's been feeding her information for months, probably without realizing the full scope of what he's doing. I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised even me. Oh, he knows. Mark's not stupid. He's ambitious. His father's company is failing, and this was his chance to save it. My phone buzzed. Mark, missing you. Dinner tonight. The casual tenderness of his message made bile rise in my throat. I switched the phone off. What's your next move? Chen asked. I stood up, one hand protectively over my belly. I need copies of everything. Already done. He handed me a USB drive. But there's something else you should know. Miss Parker, she's not who she claims to be. Her real name is Charlotte Parker Hayes. Her father, William Hayes? The name hit me like a punch. The man your father forced into bankruptcy 5 years ago, Chen confirmed. This isn't just corporate espionage, Miss Thompson. It's personal. I remembered that scandal. Hayes Pharmaceuticals had been developing dangerous, untested drugs. Dad had exposed them, saving countless lives but destroying the Hayes family in the process. Now his daughter was using my husband to exact revenge. Thank you, Mr. Chen. I gathered the evidence, my mind already racing with possibilities. You've been very thorough. Be careful, he called as I reached the door. People with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous. I turned back, feeling the weight of my unborn child, my family legacy, and my own fury. You're wrong. The most dangerous people are those who have everything to protect. I sat in my parked car outside our house, watching Mark move through the kitchen window. He was cooking, something he only did when guilt gnawed at him. The USB drive felt heavy in my hand, containing enough evidence to destroy not just my marriage, but 2 companies and countless lives. My phone lit up with Dad's message. Board meeting tomorrow. Robert Bennett's making his move. We need to act now. The front door opened, and Mark's silhouette appeared. "Alexa, why are you sitting out here?" I stepped out of the car, the evening air thick with the scent of garlic and lies. "Just thinking." "About the baby?" He reached for my belly, but I shifted away. The hurt in his eyes almost seemed genuine. Inside, he'd prepared my favorite pasta dish. The table was set with candles, like some twisted parody of romance. "We need to talk about Riverside Pharmaceuticals," I said, watching his face. His hand paused midway to his wine glass. "What about it?" "Dad's worried about information leaks, sensitive research data getting into the wrong hands." I twirled pasta around my fork, not eating. "Strange coincidence. Your father joining their board right now." "Business is business, Lex." His voice was steady, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. Dad needed this opportunity. His company. And Chloe Parker, was she just business too? The fork clattered against his plate. "Who?" "Charlotte Parker Hayes, actually." I pulled out my phone, showing him the surveillance photos. "William Hayes' daughter, remember him? The man who tried to market untested drugs until my father stopped him." Mark's face drained of color. "Alexa, I can explain." "Can you explain this?" I played the recording Chen had given me, Mark's voice discussing confidential Thompson Pharmaceuticals data with Chloe. "Or should I ask your father about the briefcase you've been passing around?" He stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. "You don't understand. They have leverage over Dad's company. If I didn't help, you could have come to me, to my father." My voice cracked, betraying the emotion I'd fought to contain. "Instead, you chose to betray everything. Our marriage, our family, our child's future." "The baby." His eyes widened with sudden calculation. "We can work this out, Lex. For the baby's sake, don't." I stood, one hand protectively over my stomach. "Don't you dare use our child to manipulate me." His phone buzzed on the table. Chloe's name flashed on the screen. "You should answer that," I said, heading for the door. "I'm sure she's wondering why you haven't delivered today's secrets yet." "Where are you going?" I turned back, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the man I'd loved, but the coward he'd become. "To make sure our baby grows up understanding the difference between loyalty and betrayal." Dad's legal team filled his office, their voices a low murmur as they reviewed the evidence. I stood at the window, watching Mark's car pull into the parking lot below. Right on schedule. "He's here," I announced, turning to face the room. "Along with Robert Bennett and—" I paused, spotting the familiar figure emerging from the back seat. "Chloe Parker." Dad's expression hardened. "Bold move, bringing her to the shareholders' meeting." "They think they have the upper hand." I placed my hand on the USB drive sitting on Dad's desk. "They don't know about this yet." The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Bennett and party are requesting immediate access to the boardroom," Sarah's voice reported. "Let them wait," Dad replied, then turned to me. "Are you sure about this, Alexa? Once we start, there's no going back." The baby kicked, as if offering its own opinion. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. The boardroom felt charged when we entered. Mark's face paled when he saw me. He'd expected me to be home, probably crying into my prenatal vitamins. Robert Bennett sat at the far end, emanating smug confidence. Chloe perched beside him, her youth more apparent in the harsh fluorescent light. "Before we begin," I said, standing at the head of the table, "I'd like to address some concerning information." "This is highly irregular," Robert protested. "We're here to discuss the merger." "You mean the hostile takeover?" I connected my laptop to the projector. "Or should we discuss how you obtained our confidential research data?" Mark half rose from his chair. "Alexa, don't—" The first surveillance photo filled the screen. Mark and Chloe exchanging more than just corporate secrets. The room went deadly quiet. "Miss Parker," I continued, switching to the next image, Chloe entering Riverside's offices with Mark's briefcase. "Or should I say, Miss Hayes? Your father sends his regards from prison." The color drained from her face. Robert Bennett's confident smile cracked. Here's what happens next, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. You withdraw your takeover bid. You resign from your position, Mr. Bennett. And you, I looked at Mark, you sign these divorce papers, now. You can't prove anything, Chloe snapped, but her hands were shaking. I played the audio recording of their late-night strategy sessions, watching their faces crumble with each damning word. Actually, Dad added, the SEC is very interested in proving quite a lot. Mark stood up, desperation in his eyes. Think about our baby. I cut him off. I'm teaching our child their first lesson. Actions have consequences. The papers sat between us, waiting for his signature. Behind him, Robert Bennett was already reaching for his phone, no doubt calling his lawyers. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about forcing people to face the truth they tried to bury. The divorce papers remained unsigned on the boardroom table. Mark stood up, smoothing his tie with trembling hands. You want to talk about consequences? Fine. Tell them about Project Aurora, Alexa. My heart stopped. Dad's face went ash-gray. What's Project Aurora? Robert Bennett leaned forward, suddenly alert. Nothing, Dad snapped, but Mark's smile told me everything. He'd kept one card hidden, waiting for this moment. Your daughter's been running unauthorized trials, Mark continued, testing new compounds without FDA approval. I have proof. The room tilted sideways. He was right. I'd fast-tracked testing on a promising cancer drug, bypassing some regulatory steps. The potential to save lives had outweighed the risks. Now that decision could destroy everything. You're bluffing, I managed, but my voice betrayed me. Chloe pulled out her phone, playing an audio recording of me discussing the trials with our research team. My own voice condemned me. We can't wait for FDA clearance. People are dying now. Dad's lawyers exchanged worried glances. The SEC investigation would cut both ways now. Here's my counteroffer, Mark said softly. We walk away, all of us. No takeover, no divorce, no SEC. We blame the data leak on a junior employee, protect both companies, or we can all go down together. The baby kicked hard enough to make me gasp. Mum's words echoed in my head. Protect your child's future. You manipulative bastard, Dad growled, starting to rise, but I placed a hand on his arm. He's right, I whispered. We can't risk it. Mark reached for my hand across the table. Come home, Lex. We can fix this. I looked at his familiar face, the man I'd loved, the father of my child, the architect of my destruction. He thought he'd won. That fear would drive me back into his arms. You're right about one thing, I said, pulling my hand away. We're all going down together. I pressed send on the email I'd prepared. Everything, including my own misconduct, sent to the SEC and major news outlets. The notification sound echoed from several phones around the table. What have you done? Mark's face contorted in horror. Consequences, I replied, standing despite my shaking legs. Real ones, not bargaining chips. Chloe was already rushing for the door. Robert Bennett slumped in his chair, decades of business reputation crumbling before his eyes. And Mark stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. The baby, he whispered. Our future. We'll know what integrity looks like, I finished, gathering my things, even when it costs everything. Sometimes rock bottom isn't where you lose everything. Sometimes it's where you find out what you're really made of. The news broke like a tsunami. Within hours, both companies' stocks were in free fall. I watched from my mother's studio as reporters swarmed the corporate offices, their cameras flashing like lightning in the growing storm. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Hayes Memorial Hospital, alone. You want to know who really sent that first photo? C. Mom gripped my arm. You can't seriously be considering. I need to know. I grabbed my keys. Everything started with that photo. Why now? Why me? The hospital's cancer ward was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors. Chloe stood by a window, her designer outfit replaced by worn jeans and a sweater that seemed too big for her frame. "My sister's in there," she said without turning. "Stage 4. The same disease that killed our mother while your father sat on the cure." "What cure?" "Project Aurora." Now she faced me, tears streaming down her face. "Dad found out Thompson Pharmaceuticals had developed a treatment. He begged your father to fast-track it. When Richard refused, Dad tried to steal it. We all know how that ended." The pieces clicked together. "You used Mark to get the research, and you completed it." Her laugh was bitter. "The unauthorized trials you ran, they worked. The treatment works, Alexa. But now, with everything exposed, it'll be tied up in investigations for years. You could have come to me directly. Would you have listened?" She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo, a younger version of herself with an identical girl. "Sarah's dying. The treatment could have saved her. Now—" She crumpled, sliding down the wall. The baby kicked, reminding me of everything I'd fought to protect. But looking at Chloe, I saw something beyond revenge and betrayal. I saw desperation, love, and the lengths we go to for family. "The trials weren't unauthorized," I said quietly. Chloe's head snapped up. "The paperwork exists. It's buried, but it exists. Dad knew about everything. He just needed deniability. The treatment has already been submitted for emergency approval." "Why are you telling me this?" I touched my belly, feeling my child move beneath my hand. "Because sometimes protecting your family means more than destroying your enemies." "It's too late," she whispered. "The scandal will pass. The treatment will save lives, including Sarah's, if you'll let me help." She stared at me, years of hatred warring with hope in her eyes. Finally, she nodded. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "You were just collateral damage," I finished. "We all were. But maybe that's not how this has to end. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemies, but in choosing to rise above their expectations, in choosing to heal rather than hurt." The FDA approval for Project Aurora came through on the same morning I signed my divorce papers. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered like vultures, but their questions weren't about corporate scandals anymore. They wanted to know about the breakthrough cancer treatment that would save thousands of lives. I spotted Mark across the parking lot, looking smaller somehow in his off-the-rack suit. His father's company had collapsed under the weight of the investigations, taking their family fortune with it. He started toward me, but stopped when Dad stepped to my side. "The treatment begins tomorrow," Dad said quietly. "Sarah's first on the list." I nodded, watching Chloe emerge from the hospital entrance. She'd traded corporate ambition for a position on our patient advocacy board, channeling her fierce determination into something healing instead of destructive. "Mrs. Thompson?" A young woman approached, clutching a familiar envelope. "I believe this belongs to you." The original photograph that had started everything, but now I saw the subtle watermark in the corner, Hayes Photography. "My sister took it," the woman said. "I'm Jennifer Hayes. Sarah wanted you to know the truth before she swallowed hard. She saw what was happening to both families and couldn't stay silent." The baby kicked as I studied the photo one last time. Then I tore it in half, letting the pieces scatter in the wind. "Tell Sarah thank you," I said. "Sometimes the hardest truth is exactly what we need." Inside the courthouse, Mum waited with the final paperwork. She hugged me gently, her violin calluses rough against my cheek. "Ready to go home?" "Almost." I walked to where Mark stood frozen, still watching me. "I never wanted revenge," I told him. "I wanted justice. There's a difference." "I know that now." He glanced at my belly. "Will you ever tell them about me?" "I'll tell them everything," I replied. "About choices, consequences, and how sometimes losing everything can show you what matters most." He nodded once, then walked away. I didn't watch him go. Back in Dad's office, I found my old nameplate waiting on my desk. Alexa Thompson, Director of Research Ethics. Below it sat a small frame containing half of the torn photograph. Not the half showing betrayal, but the half showing strength. The strength to face truth, to choose healing over hatred, to protect what matters most. The baby kicked again, stronger now. Soon they would arrive in a world where their mother's choices had helped shape not just their future, but countless others. Not through revenge or destruction, but through the harder path of transformation and grace. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the battle, but in choosing which battles define you.